Hey, this is Lawrence Juber from Wings, and you're listening to Fab 4 Free For All.
And welcome to another edition of the Fab 4 Free For All. We are so happy to be back, the boys and me, and I, whatever the English is. I am Mitch Axelrod, the moderator for this show, and joining me, as they always do, and I'm so happy they do, are my good friends Rob Leonard.
Hello, everyone.
And Tony Chiguardo.
Howdy, folks.
And we are really excited about this episode because the Beatles have just given us a 30-year gift. I guess it's a gift after 30 years. The Anthology collection has just come out as of this recording. And they've given us an extra volume, and they're going to be doing a remastered docu-series on Disney, which we won't be touching on. We're touching on the Anthology collection, mostly Anthology 4.
Right.
Because we'll touch a little bit on the regular 1, 2, and 3, but not too much in this episode because there's still a lot to talk about with 4. So, on that note, I think releasing this anthology, what was that?
No, Rob just, people hearing it on audio are not going to know, but Rob just had the album cover sort of drifting in. It drifted
in and drifted out.
Drifted in and drifted out. It's like a little bit of Jaws action.
Because I was thinking of just doing the whole show like this, looking from behind it like that, and then, because I have the whole cover,
There you go.
But I decided not to. Decisions are made quickly on the show, as we know.
Yes. But you know what? After 30 years, we could have gotten Rubber Soul, and people are going to ask, where's Rubber Soul? But don't worry about that for now, because it actually is the 30th anniversary of the Anthology series. And when we were privy enough to hear and see the Now and Then in September of 23, they did mention that Anthology's coming. Yep. So we knew, a lot of us, not only the three of us, but whoever was there knew that something was up and it was going to take a long time. And I think Rob asked, what about Real Love and Free as a Bird being redone? And Lord knows we got it. And we talk about that. But you know what's good about this, guys? In my opinion, I think, first of all, 1995, and this will link right to the audio, so just bear with me. In 1995, there was no, again, sort of like 3 channels. There was no streaming, or at least not as available as it is now. So putting this together, this whole anthology package of audio and video, I think is really going to piggyback on the Get Back success, where all the young kids went nuts watching the cool Beatles record an album, and they saw it 8 hours worth, and they did TikToks and Instagrams, and oh my God, I saw so many. And now those same people are going to be able to stream, not just sit on ABC and watch during Thanksgiving. They'll be able to stream whenever they want and see how the Beatles started, that cool band actually started. So I think there's a great, it's a really a good coup on behalf of Apple and Universal, whoever, because I really think that getting this out now instead of maybe waiting and not having an anniversary is really good. What do you?
And you hit a good point too, Mitch, because it's really very important that this whole presentation is not something that has, the thing about the whole Get Back project was it always carried a stigma. It had an agenda. It was trying to show that, it wasn't the winter of their discontent. They weren't at each other's throats all the time. It showed warts and all, but Get Back, and I don't mean that in a negative way, that it had an agenda.
Of course.
Sometimes you say something had an agenda and it sounds like it's a bad thing. I thought it had a fairly noble purpose, put it that way. The great thing about what we're going to be looking at with Anthology 1, 2, and the 3-part anthology, and now the new part that they've put together, is I think we're going to be, for the most part, we're focusing on better times. We're focusing on happier times. So this is going to give the young people an entirely new perspective on them that they certainly really didn't get holistically with Get Back, which is cool unto itself.
I want to ask you guys a question. Mitch, you brought up a point about the fact that we all watched it in 1995 and that a lot of people today are going to watch it via streaming. There was, I want to always, because I don't think I've ever asked you guys this, the first night when we're watching this, we weren't watching this together. We didn't do the show then. We didn't see each other a lot then either, because just the way our lives went. How did you feel watching the first episode? And then how did you feel about Free as a Bird coming on at the end as the song, and as just when they had the countdown clock, I was really excited. So I was wondering what you guys thought, because we're watching it, our generation is watching it on TV. It was on A, Beatles, C. They promoted the hell out of it. And this is a little different because it's not going to be the same. It's going to be on Disney Plus, streaming. It's not going to be on ABC again. It would have been nice, but they're not doing that. So I just wondering what you guys thought.
If you don't mind, I'll go first, Tony, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there was such an anticipation when the countdown clock while watching, you can't do that from Australia at the end. But it was great, except you were forced to watch it or you didn't see it. So that's the good thing about now is because, and don't forget, Anthology 1, 2, and 3, all those nights, as much as we'd love to think they did okay, it really didn't do okay on the ratings because it was, again, Thanksgiving. People were stuck watching, on their TV. And as much as the hardcore fans like us and people watching and listening to this probably sat in front, maybe not, because, it's 30 years ago and some people weren't even born yet. Some of our listeners are younger, which is good. And a lot of the Get Back success people are young. So I loved it. The anticipation was there. I still have an anticipation of putting on Disney Plus at 12 o'clock a.m. or at midnight on the 26th and watching the remastered version. So there's a little bit of a difference. I also think it gives, by having it streaming now, it gives such a big, wide audience because anybody can go probably for the next year or two and watch any part they want and
that part is true.
The Beatles.
But by the way, the first night for Beatles Anthology did really well. It was the next two nights, Thanksgiving being one of them, people traveling. So the ratings weren't as good for that. And the second night had Real Love, which I actually thought was a better song than Free as a Bird. But there was a lot of good things about that anticipation that, the streaming generation's not going to have. But I understand why they're doing it. We all move on, so to speak.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. Obviously, the anticipation was there, but truth be told, I was in a room full of friends. One of whom was, true first generation. Someone who was whatever it was 8, 9 years old when they hit, and he was moved to tears. When it hit, because this was. Suddenly it just became very tangible. You've been hearing about it in the news. All of a sudden, there was the song. And you got to remember, too, we hadn't heard a note of it. There wasn't it hadn't been floating around on bootlegs. It wasn't. The difference now, too, is that, we've got to remember that what we're really looking at and what we're really going to be experiencing with that, and we're kind of off topic, but it's all right. But
not really.
But the reality
fits it.
But the reality is that what we're really seeing and what we're really looking forward to and what fans are really going to be getting into is, for the most part, a remastering. It's an upgrade, so to speak. The DVDs have been out there. It's not like it was shown 30 years ago, then it just disappeared and we've never been able to see it. Now here it is again. It's for the hype that it's being given, which is very smart. I think this is how you're going to bring the young people to it. I don't think that the young people are necessarily going to go through dad's DVD collection and go, oh, what are these? The Beatles anthologies? So don't get me wrong. I know kids whose parents come into the library and mom or dad have sat them down and they've watched the anthology together on DVD. So this is the kind of thing where I think we're going to get new fans. I think we're going to get, and let's face it, there are some people that are so young that they're not even really getting off on the DVD platform and medium anymore.
Nobody has DVD players.
Nobody has a DVD player anymore. So if they don't get to see this in either the streaming format or in some sort of downloadable format down the road or what have you, they may not get to see it and may have not seen it yet. So,
and also, I agree. I think the lead up was so incredible though, and I that night I was watching it on a small television. I was working at a radio station, and my boss said at 11 o'clock they're going to be sending the song down, so make sure you record it so we can play it back the next day. And at 11 o'clock, it didn't feed. It fed 11 o'clock Pacific time. And I was already gone.
Oh.
So someone else did get it, but I was nervous, and I was going to take it off my VHS because I recorded it at home, and that's what I remember about it. It was a great feeling as a Beatle fan that this came out, and Tony, like you said, there was absolutely no leak on this song beforehand.
Nothing.
Hard to believe.
Yeah,
hard to believe because they had to press those CDs at least a month beforehand or 3 weeks beforehand. You think someone would have.
The internet wasn't as prevalent. You know what I mean?
That's true.
But also now,
and I didn't have any friends there.
Oh well, what? I have no idea what you're talking about, Tony.
No, but you know what? Now, I mean, let's get back to the audio, because if you also remember, Rob and Tony, all the actual record stores, including Barnes and Noble and all the Borders, they had midnight camping out waiting to get the CDs.
That's right.
So, that's a different story now. Our local stores, as great as they are, shout out to High Fidelity, Infinity, and Looney Tunes on the island, but all those stores are not having midnight, open. They didn't have midnight waiting on Friday to get the box set of this.
The fun thing was I was distributing at that point, so I just went down to hang out and join the party with everybody. I already had mine. I had already opened the boxes already before I left for work. Left work. I went around and got those.
Hey, shout out to our buddy Bob Koenig. I'll never forget. We were in I think it was
Tower.
Borders, or it was Borders.
Was it Borders or Tower?
No, it was Borders I think it was Borders at like midnight, and he was going up and down the aisles doing his Yoko thing, imitation, and it was just hilarious. And we were just, all having a good time because we were all anticipating getting that CD of all the stuff that we've never heard. I mean, when I say never, there were bootlegs we heard, but there was so much on everything that we never heard. Yeah. So it was just a great time. And, shout out also to Disney and Apple, because now the trailer for this looked amazing. I mean, they did a great trailer, but the remastering job on the video, holy cow. So that's what's going to look great too. So not only do we get this amazing audio collection, whether you buy the 3 again or just 4, or buy none and just stream them, but we will see the Beatles story again 30 years later. I still can't believe it's 30 years since 25 years. It's like, because if you remember, the big tagline was the first new Beatles song in 25 years. And now it's 55 years, and we got a new Beatles song 53 years later. Like,
and isn't it amazing that we're still only 25? But anyway.
I'm a little younger than you, Tony.
Anyway.
No, but now, we get this collection, and they've really done a great job on the collection as well. And we'll get to the 4, because that's what we're going to focus. Just real quick on 1 to 3 for everybody. They have remastered, restored some, and remixed a lot. So if you're wondering, should I get it? Should I not get it? I already have it. I've seen all the comments. I have it on CD. I have it on this. I've streamed it. It's up to you, obviously. No one's making you buy anything, but the disc 1 restorations alone are, at least in my opinion, and I know money's tight for everybody, so do whatever you want, stream it. But I mean, That'll Be the Day, In Spite of All the Danger, Hallelujah, I Love You, You'll Be Mine, Cayenne. Those are all new restorations. And oh my, they just sound so much better than they've ever sounded.
And truthfully, too, You Know What to Do is sounds fantastic. Whether you love the song or don't love the song, You Know What to Do sounds absolutely incredible. And I mean, the one thing, and I fully agree with you, Mitch. I think that if you're going to, if money's tight and you have to make a call and you have to make a decision about what you want to actually have, it's probably going to be a replacement of Anthology 1, or not necessarily a replacement, sit alongside Anthology 1, because the thing that you've got to remember too, it's like anything else. And Mitch, I don't know this. Pardon me. Is this a replacement? In other words, here's where I'm going. 1, 2, and 3, especially 1 and 2, sound different.
Yes.
The debate will rage on probably until we're 100 over whether or not they sound better for everyone, for everyone's ears. Are there the ones that you just mentioned? Yeah. Undoubtedly. There are certain things on here where if you try to argue that they're not better, I'll go toe to toe on you on that one. No, they are better, period. But there are other things where they are different. Some I think are better. Go ahead.
You're right, Tony. Here's the thing: if you're going for, should I replace or just re-listen?
Yes.
Because you can go to stream and re-listen. That's up to you. I will say you're absolutely right, Tony. One has all the ones I mentioned. And also, they've done a stereo processing on these, on a lot of mono tracks, not the old Dave Dexter stereo processing stuff, just a subtle stereo processing, which makes, in my ears, and they're 63 years old, soon to be when I'm 64 years, they sound good, really good. Now, Giles has also done some remixing of the live stuff. Like All My Loving has a new mix for the docu-series, but it's on the audio. Mm-hmm. All right. So, and also he did Blackpool Night Out. I mean, Help. I got to tell you, listen to Help.
Yeah.
Blackpool Night Out.
Blackpool Night Out. Blackpool Night Out sounds fantastic.
There's bass
absolutely.
Drum. There's bass drum.
Yeah. But there are some things that, and it's not, look, I'm happy that everything that is on these is still on these. I'm happy it was on there when it was. It is meant to be a presentation of the Beatles' history, and it coincides with the documentary. I'll give you that. There is a certain degree of, rock and roll music from Japan is still a little bit of polishing a turd.
Of course.
It sound. I mean, does it sound better than it's ever sounded? Sure, but is it like vital? I don't know. The stereo mixes, I think, are really interesting. I like them. I'm happy that they're out there. But like the one thing that sort of threw me a little bit was, I understand that when these came out, if I'm not mistaken, we still only had mono of the album, of the first 4 albums on CD. Am I right at that point? 95? Yeah, we hadn't gotten the stereo box yet, 2009. So we had those first 4 were mono. But I understand Giles going back and doing, quote, stereo separations, but
he didn't do it for everything. He did a lot of it But he did a lot of it for the docu-series in order to present that in a better way.
Absolutely. But here's my question, though. With some of those tracks, why weren't they able to just go back to multi-tracks and create true stereo versions?
Well, it depends on if it was live or...
Well, no, there are tracks, like I think he did stereo reprocessing, for instance, with No Reply, which sounds wonderful. Sounds great. The No Reply outtake. He did it with a couple of other outs. Leave My Kitten Alone, for instance. But aren't there multi-tracks? I mean, maybe there aren't. That might be the answer to the question.
Well, there would be for Leave My Kitten Alone and No Reply, but so, the Hallelujah, I Love You So, there wasn't.
Right.
It was, so. But nowadays, now with that new technology, was the Peter Jackson Mal technology, they can probably do a lot more. But maybe they don't want to. Part of it is the history.
Correct.
It was recorded. The tape machine was on the other side of the room.
Yes.
That helps make it a historical value. Now, mind you, you might want to hear it fixed up. I would, but if you're looking at history, maybe they don't want to change history too much.
Well,
That's a great point.
Absolutely. But the good thing is the things that they did decide to change that are historic. So, I mean, I put on That'll Be the Day and like my jaw dropped.
Yeah, it sounds
right speed.
Yeah. Yes. I never in a million years between That'll Be the Day, In Spite of All the Danger, Hallelujah, like that first set, and You'll Be Mine and Cayenne, they all sound brilliant. Once you get to the live stuff, again, part of it is that my ears have been so conditioned to listening to not Royal Albert Hall, Royal Command performance in mono, in rough, and also too, I can't help but picture the video in my head. So the funny part of it is these new mixes are going to fit better for me emotionally when I see it corresponding to the newly remastered video.
And that's also a good point, but you have to understand, I mean, like stuff like the Sullivan, where John's mic was not even sounding like it was on, needs it. That needs it no matter what,
Absolutely.
Historical or not, Rob. And Rob, your point was amazing, because I don't want Peter Jackson to take individual tracks from That'll Be the Day and make it sound like 2025. It wasn't. It was 1950, whatever.
But I don't mind, because we have the original version that came out in 1995. So this is a good reason actually to go and buy it again. Now, the problem is only Anthology 4 is individually available. The other 3 are together.
Right.
So that could be a problem.
Oh, that's right.
Because as of right now, you can't buy it separately. Like, I think Anthology 2 is the best out of the 3, because not just because of the period quality of music, but just the sound of it. And the third one has a lot of demos and stuff. But the first one, you got to remember when Mitchie, when you were online with Rob Koenig, there were some people buying Anthology 1 who really weren't Beatle fans and were really disappointed at the fan acceptance quality, not the major mainstream listener type of quality, where we said, oh wow, that sounds really good. But someone who's not into the Beatles said, boy, That'll Be the Day. Boy, that sounds really bad.
But it sold 8 million copies.
Right, but you know what? Whenever I go to like thrift stores and stuff, the one Beatles anthology I always find is Beatles Anthology 1.
Right.
Because a lot of people
got to remember though too, it was also the best selling out of them though too, Rob.
That's true. That's because that first night, everyone like Mitch and Rob Koenig, just said, hey, we gotta have it right now. I had to have it too, so. And
anybody buying it as presents, was the idea too that, well, it's a series. I'm going to buy one for my grandkid. I watch so many people run to the stores and grab volume 1, partly just because, wait, how many are there? There's 3. All right, I want that one because that's going to be the first, and then if he likes that, he'll get the other ones, and then that's the way it works.
You had to have them because you had to take all the CDs and put them together.
Get the photo.
Though, but here's the thing, though, Tony. Back to and Rob just made a great point, which I didn't think about, but it answers your question, Tony. Is it replaceable? Well, if you're gonna you have to buy the whole box in order to replace 1, 2, and 3. Unless you're going to stream them, and if you want it, then you can pick and choose whatever the hell you want. And quite honestly, though, I can't wait to see the video, as you said, Tony, to match what Giles did. Like the All My Loving from Sullivan. The Twist and Shout from Royal Variety on audio sound amazing. Is it, is it replacing? No. I mean, you as Rob said, you have the others. go listen if you want.
But
And
it will be acceptable as the replacement, I think, in my auditory memory after I get to see it on video.
I think the younger people, I know this sounds weird, but I think the younger fans won't care. They're not going to go back and listen to the older one. They're going to say, this sounds fresh. And don't forget, guys, this is what the whole thing about any release of the Beatles now is doing. They're trying to make the Beatles sound fresh because they're 55 years broken up.
Yeah.
They're making them sound fresh to today's listener, even if the song is old. So this does sound fresh.
I agree with you there. Yeah. And that's why it's very funny because, I'm addressing it from the standpoint of, three guys who've been fans for 1,000 years doing a Beatles podcast. Whereas the realisticness of it is that somebody putting it on and hearing the stuff from Royal Command Performance is going to go, wow, that's a really hot performance. Right. Their head's not going to be going back to, that doesn't sound like I remember it. What?
You don't remember it.
You don't remember it. Yeah, right. So
don't forget, we had the bootleg videos of that where you couldn't tell which Beatle was which.
Please. My God. We had the Decca Gone 45 on red vinyl.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. And by the way, those are fun and collectible for all the young people out there. Go find those.
Go find
Tony, those. I know you'll remember this, Tony, because you and I did this show together once. We had the sessions tape. And you remember that, and we actually played some of it on our show. I remember that.
I played the whole damn thing. Actually.
That's right, and people were calling up, flipping out.
Yeah.
And years later, when I found it again, the actual tape, I listened back to it. There was so much hiss on it. Oh my God!
Oh
I forgot how hissy it was.
Yeah.
But we were so excited because we hadn't heard it. And if that's your first hearing of some of those songs, and then the anthology comes out, that changes your thinking. And now what you just said, this changes it a little more too, because you're hearing things that sound better. They found a way to make it sound better. Now, Mitch, I agree with you. What about John's microphone on this? Let's say they go back to the Sullivan shows and remix the audio, because we know what happened to it, especially on the first show. It won't be the way they heard it on in their little TV, but at this point, it doesn't matter.
Yes, it'll create a better archival snapshot of the Beatles at that time. It's gonna still be the Beatles performance on the Ed Sullivan Show. There's not going to be anything simulated. There's no AI. It's just that a technical problem that happened on that show.
Right.
Now, thanks to current technology, been able to be fixed.
And I wouldn't mind it. And it's sort of with this new release, which is a re-release, but it's updated, so to speak. I don't mind if they would say, let's say they do the Sullivan shows, they put the original version and then the fixed version, because that way you can compare.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't bother me if they did that, because some history, we know that John's voice was mixed low by mistake, of course, but it wouldn't hurt to have both.
I think it would, Rob. That muddies the waters. I think the idea is we'll live in the here and now. We'll see these new ones, and really, the idea being that, if they put out a new Ed Sullivan DVD set, God knows they're not going to include the originals and then the redos. They're going to, if they start messing with things like aspect ratio and stuff like that, that's when it gets ugly, pan and scan and all that stuff.
Right. I understand that.
That's different. But if I'm talking about if they put out a duplication of these were the Ed Sullivan shows, I would want to hear it with corrected audio.
I want it to sound like the Beatles sounded in that theater.
Yes.
Not the way we saw it on TV. Or heard it on TV. You know what I mean by heard it on TV.
Right.
But anyway.
Our memory isn't of the audio of that stuff. Well, it is in terms of, oh my God, these songs are wonderful. Our memories of seeing individual Beatle clips, Beatle performances, things like that, it was about the performances. It was about the emotion that it evoked, what it made you feel. And as you're saying, hearing the Beatles as they sounded in the room, that's what was earth-shaking. That performance, the way they made the noise they made, that's what was important. having that noise be as sonically clean as it can possibly be, that's icing on the cake. So, but anyway.
Let's talk about Anthology 4 because that's important. And let's just get the elephant in the room out of the room.
Hey, I'm losing weight, okay? Come on.
Wow. He's self-defecating.
Wow.
Self-defecate?
I was kidding. That was a joke. I don't know.
Wow.
Maybe you are. That all depends. Anyway, no, but I mean, the elephant in the room is people are in the camp of why couldn't they just release a whole album or 3 albums of, if you bought the vinyl, of new material that we've never heard. And you can't see that, Rob, it's blurred, but
okay, well, they know what it is.
Here's the problem with that, and I'll go to my grave saying this. I can't help it. Apple, and I'm not shilling for Apple or Universal. Everybody who's listening or watching knows that we never do that. We call a spade, and we tell when it's negative. But they can't, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. And because if you release all new material on this and don't give us stuff that was on previous Super Deluxe Edition, that's what SDE stands for, well then, what happened? First of all, not everybody bought those boxes, right?
Right.
So anybody who didn't buy those boxes for hundreds of dollars, and there's 7 of them or whatever, all the stuff is going to be fairly new. And if you do include more stuff from like March 5th of 63, where we know there's a million outtakes of One After 909 and this and that, thank you, girl. If you do that, then the people, when they go backwards and do the boxes for the early stuff, they're going to say, well, we already heard that outtake on the Anthology 4. So they can't win. They really can't.
No, but you know what's cool though, Mitch, and you stop and think about it. All right, first of all, Anthology 4 is going to be available independently.
Yes.
So it's a twofold thing. You're right about damned if they do, damned if they don't. But to the positive side, doing it the way they did it, they're extracting probably what they feel are some of the best highlights of the stuff that has been included on the other box sets. Okay, so it's going to give the casual-ish fan,
right,
who's going beyond the set of catalog albums, and you know what, may not go out and buy, because I've got all the albums. I don't need to buy one. I don't need to buy this. I don't need to buy that. But this is still new music, new versions. So maybe I didn't go out and buy all the box sets, but I'm going to go out and buy the new the remastered anthologies. And oh, hey, there's a new one. So first of all, it's the best commercial in the world to go out and now buy. You hear it, you go, oh my God, this outtake from Revolver is so cool. Oh, maybe I should get the box set. Oh, this outtake from this, wow, that really sounds great. Oh, maybe I should get the box set. So it's a commercial for the other boxes. I think
the other sets.
What's that?
Oh, you mean the other boxes?
The other box sets, the other Beatles box, the Super Deluxe editions,
right.
Yeah. And right now, for the immediate time being, you're gonna tide over your hardcore Beatle fan. Look, let's be honest. This isn't the price of just 4 by itself isn't going to break anybody's bank. It's not going to kill anyone.
Right.
But yeah, people may not, as you said, may not be able to afford the box of the 3. They certainly may not want to go out and buy all the vinyl, but you know what? To just get 4, it's not a horrible thing. And for now, we've got 14 tracks that are brand new to us. Or
however many, I think. Yeah, if you count, there's more if you count Real Love and Free as a Bird.
I think it was. Yeah. I got 14, but that's okay.
All right, that's fine.
I wanted to bring up something, Tony, that you sort of were wrapping around. There are certain levels of Beatle fans. There's a level of Beatle fan who just bought Beatles 1 because they wanted a Beatles greatest hits album. Mm-hmm. Then there's people who come in, they bought the red and the blue, and that led them to maybe the Pepper and the White Album, but maybe they're not into everything. And then there's a third one who, when Anthology came out, they liked the series, they went out and bought the 3 things. And then, of course, there's guys like us and other people listening to the show who buy everything, the box sets and everything else. But not those people who bought the anthologies maybe didn't buy the box sets. So
right.
As much as I can knock the thought process of, well, we have this already from the box set, not everyone has the box set, and there's going to be people who never get the box sets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But there's also going to be people that, it's funny, great job, Tony, on the commercial part of it being a commercial for all the past stuff, because people may hear it or stream it and go, I need to either stream every single box that came out, or I need to have it in my collection if that's what you want. But I think,
and remember, everyone, if you stream any of those Beatle tracks 25 or 30,000 times, the Beatles get like 50 cents.
Yeah,
that much. I was about to say.
Sure.
But don't forget also that I think a lot of people might hold off buying anything until or who didn't buy anything and streaming after they see the anthology, the video part over the 26th, 7th, and 8th of November of 2025. I think, or whenever they watch it, that could also force people, not force, but also make people want to go out and buy the anthology collection as a whole. So there's a bunch of different options, but I think again, I understand Apple's point of view that you don't want to give up the farm on Anthology 4 and have 36 tracks you never heard, because you have to go. I'm not saying you have to, but I suspect that they're going to go backwards. So you do have to have a little bit of surprise there. And the damned if you do, damned if you don't also is the idea that, look, here's what was smart. On anthologies 1, 2, and 3, they did go back, and in some instances, they aligned the tracks that were on, especially on Anthology 3, they aligned the tracks that were on Anthology 3 with the same mixes and versions that are currently on the corresponding box set of the album. Right.
Yes.
Which was a smart thing to do. And it's the damned if you do, damned if you don't, in a sense that, look, if they didn't do that, you're going to have people complaining, well, damn, now we get it again on Anthology 2, but it sounds better on the box sets, No, now, because now you're going to have people who are also going to be saying, oh, they messed with it. It's not the same version that was on Anthology 2 originally. But again, it's that idea that the technology's there now. Last time they did this was 30 years ago. Technology wasn't there. So it's time. You could do it. You do it. If they didn't do these three, wasn't Apple going to get busted on? They missed an opportunity. They missed
overall, they are remastered. Overall,
yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
But Tony, remember the Red and the Blue albums? They took the most recent mix and put it on there. So it wasn't like the mixes from 1973 or whatever, or 1993 when they redid them again. So that's the right thing to do, to take the most current mix and put it on, because why not? I mean, it's, to me, you can't keep having people chasing the remix, because the Beatles one in 2000 when it came out was one mix. They remixed it for the 2015 version, but they also did it because of the videos, because they were adding the music to that or fixing it up. So they said, let's remix it. So there's a lot of remixes out there, Beatle wise. But
Rob, to your point, like on 3 now, they've replaced Get Back, the old version, meaning the one that was on 3, with the 2022 mix that they released audio-wise. The 42-minute digital one. Yeah. They've replaced that. So that's the one I want to hear. I mean, if it's sounding rooftop performance and it was on the old one anyway, just give me the best sounding now.
Yeah, I agree. So I have no problem with that. It's just, it's sometimes tough to keep a track of it at all. As the fans we are and the fans who listen to the show, we know about this stuff, but some people might not care or know or want to know even. That's the thing. I mean, 14 songs isn't a lot, but if there's bootleg 1963, I saw her standing there. Not everyone has that. That was out for like 12 seconds.
Sure.
And that's, what? Let's start there, Rob, because I want to. I want to go through each track, the new ones, not the
Mhm.
not all the ones we've heard, but
Right.
but I will make quick mention, very quick, of the first two and the third one actually, because I saw her standing there, and Money, the undubbed, there's no piano. Those are from, like you said, the 1963 bootleg recordings, which was a copyright thing that came out for 3 seconds
Right.
and was never really released. So, how many people caught up with that? I know there's
No one.
bootlegs of it,
Right.
right?
And
So,
you're right, by the way, Mitch. It is more because I didn't, for whatever reason, I didn't count those two.
yeah. Well, there's also, don't
You know,
forget, there's also the This Boy, which was on the Free as a Bird EP.
yeah,
Right.
So,
Yeah.
the only thing I will say is that if they gave us the Free as a Bird EP one extra track, then maybe we should have gotten the Real Love. They should have given us all the rest from the CD EPs, you know what I mean, or the EPs. A minor quibble.
what I know
Because we
I
already-
know you're 1,000% correct, Mitch. But do you remember offhand what was missing? There was a
Well,
lot.
Here, There, and Everywhere was
Right.
Real Love. That
Right.
again, they sort of gave us that on the Revolver box. So
Right.
But that's you know what that is? That is Jeff Emmerich and George Martin playing around and said, "Hey, let's put it out."
that's true. They flew in the right. They
Right,
gave
good
the
point.
raw and they flew in the remix. But
Right.
yeah, you're right, and maybe that's why they didn't do it. But what with the Yellow Submarine with the talking,
Right.
stuff like that, fun. But anyway, so let's get to the real meat and potatoes because the Beatles were all vegetarians or became them. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of stuff. So, Tell Me Why is really the first mind blower. The first track, the new one, and to me, I as soon as I heard it, first of all, it comes out on the speakers, the drums as booming. It sounds so ultra clear, like they recorded it yesterday.
Yeah. No,
and
yesterday's a little on the other end.
But take one. But the Tell Me Why, I love the camaraderie between all three of them. Well, four of them, obviously. Ringo's noodling on his drums because he knows his part really well. And Lord knows, when you hear it, he had it down. But like the harmonies they're trying to teach George and how to do it. And it's just the fun and they're all together. And it shows such great camaraderie between them, learning how to do, not a song that everybody knows. I mean, it was in A Hard Day's Night, but it just sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Also, I like the camaraderie. You're right, Mitch. There's a bunch of songs that has that chatter beforehand. Yes. There was Yellow Matter chatter. Well, there was a chatter thing that they took from the Rock Band stuff. There was a bootleg on it. And I like that type of stuff because it shows how they get a song to come together.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't remember. Oh, I'm sorry.
Especially this one.
And I can't remember which of them, but I don't think it was Tell Me Why, but there's one where there's the mistake, and
you made a mistake.
Yeah, you made a mistake. And I heard you made a mistake, and
he goes, I know.
I know, but it's that to me is hysterical, and it's stuff like that, and the nice thing about it too is that my wife and Winnie and I were in the car listening to it this afternoon, and Winnie was kind of saying like, yeah, they weren't perfect. They made mistakes. But at the same time, though, I asked her if I could steal a line that she had said, but it's the and sonically, it's all brilliant. Like there is a sonic brilliance to these new, mastered in 2025.
Yes.
From the master tapes versions of this stuff.
It sounds like they were in a studio.
You're in the room.
And literally, and you're in the room with them.
Yes.
I mean, Ringo comes in, and my amazement of this song is that even after they make the mistake, because it takes 4 and 5, when they break down on take 4, and John is even saying to George, you don't even have to say me. It's great when he does that. And George still gets it wrong in the take. But it doesn't matter. But even when they, right after take 4 ends and they go into take 5, they literally just go into it again, and they just go, "Come on, guys, 2, 3, 4," and it's like, whoa. I mean,
there could have been an edit there by a few seconds.
Listen,
but I doubt it.
Whether there is or not, musically, they were great.
I'm saying there might have been an edit, but like I'm saying, by a couple of seconds, because look at the time frames that they worked in. You start to look at, books like the recording sessions book, and you realize, wait a minute, they recorded 4 songs, how many takes in how long?
Right.
Even if some of them were just breakdowns after the first 3 or 4 lines, it was one after the other, bang, bang, bang.
Absolutely.
And also, they were in the room together. It's not like today where, please do your drums first, and then I'll overdub this.
Well, like Now and Then, where they sent it to Ringo and he did his drums.
Right. He wasn't in the room with Paul. He didn't even want to do it at first. He goes, okay, we'll do it.
So let's get to If I Felt, take 11. Now, this is kind of fun because it's, John's a little wobbly on the vocal, but I'm not sure. I mean, I won't swear actually, that it's him tapping on the guitar while he's singing the opening.
That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like it's him just keeping time. It doesn't sound like it's anything Ringo's doing.
No.
It's too close to
not.
Yeah.
Right. So it sounds like he's actually trying to keep time on the guitar while he's doing the opening. And then, it's, again,
which is interesting, though, because if it does certainly sound like that's what it is, but unless that was intended to be on the recording, that really kills the take immediately.
Correct.
Yeah, it does. And it didn't fit the take either. It's like, what it reminded me of? How on Get Back, John's like hitting the strings on the top from the front?
Yes.
To get that ball. That's what it reminded me of, but a different sound. But it sounded like the same thing, that he's trying to get a sound that didn't fit the song, where maybe on Get Back it did.
Well, maybe they weren't trying to, quote, record it, even though they kept the tape rolling. Maybe they were trying to get the vocals down, and in order to do it, he was just tapping, knowing that, that wouldn't be the final. But it is interesting to hear. It's annoying. And when you hear
I think it took away from the song. I thought it took away from the song. It's a beautiful ballad.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is like you say, it's cool to hear whatever that technique was, whatever, even if it was let's see if this works, then you hear it back and you go, what was I thinking? Yeah.
Right.
Who knows,
Yeah.
But, so the next one is Matchbox, take 1. Now,
love it.
We should just say one thing. When we say take 1, that doesn't mean the Beatles went into the studio and said, let's try Matchbox. Go. I'm sure they rehearsed for hours and then said, push the button, we got it.
And how many times have they been playing this song live?
That's
in Germany and whatnot. They probably played that. This was probably the 847th time they played the song. So
exactly. And supposedly Carl was in the room at this time. And I got to tell you, this one has a different energy than the release one. It might actually be better than the released one.
Yeah.
But I love it when he says, if you don't, Ringo's Peaches, honey.
Yes.
He doesn't say my Peaches, honey. He says Ringo's. He actually names himself. I like that better.
I do too. Well, that's Carl Perkins. That's a Carl Perkins thing too. If you don't want to eat Carl's Peaches, Carl Perkins would do something like that in a song. Like all those country cats would do things like that.
I love
it. That's perfect.
I always wondered why, Carl Perkins is watching them. Hey, Carl, come on, join us. We need a guitar solo here.
Carl Perkins was no Clapton.
Right, very nice. Very nice. But no, and again, we were listening in the car, and like when he was saying about Ringo's voice is just so full of character and full of, and it was that question of, when he was saying, well, why didn't they let him sing more, than he did? But going out live and singing was
different.
Difficult thing to do with him.
Also, drumming and singing is not
easy to do. Yeah, but it really is. His vocal is always so full of character, and his vocal
always had a good voice, Tony.
Yeah,
in the studio, it's just that when you've got 3 other good voices,
of course,
even better voices,
of course, and they're writing the songs, right? And they're writing the songs besides. But yeah, anyway, so good.
No, but then so then every little thing, take 6 and 7. This is all fun. First of all, I love that they allowed you on on this audio, on this LP, to hear them wait until the guitar intro ended, for them to sing. They could have just edited that out, but it's so cool to hear that they left that blank. So in my head, I know everybody else's head, we're all going din, 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 din. and then you hear them strumming and sing. I love this. Paul burps.
Yes.
There's no timpani.
That's cool. Not having the timpani there. Don't get me wrong. I love the timpani. I love the final arrangement, but it is cool as hell having this bare bones. I love
the timpani was a good touch.
It is.
Who went in there? Like, did George Martin do we need more cowbell? And he said, we need timpani. like who went in there and said, you know what this song needs?
A timpani.
Right. And they did it. There's pictures of Ringo playing it, but they love this song, and I think it's kind of cool that they put it on here, and I'll tell you why. Because in Get Back, and it relates to Get Back. In Get Back, George mentions this song.
That's right.
Because he said, if we're going to do oldies, why don't we do our oldies, like Every Little Thing? And he starts playing it, and when I saw Get Back and saw that, I was like, wow, this was such an album track filler.
Yeah.
And George wants to play it on the roof. Well, not on the roof. He didn't know he was going on the roof then. He wanted to play it at the concert, like instead of, before they played their new stuff. And I was floored. So it's kind of cool that they included it here, because now those Get Back youngsters are going to relate to this song because of if they caught that part and Get Back.
But that's what's fun, though, because here we are, super geeking out, and it's awesome that you caught that, because as soon as you said it, my head just went, oh yeah, that's right. But do you think that actually there was a power that be at Apple that was going through? No,
I don't.
There is. I don't know.
Maybe
did somebody say, oh, we've got this, we've got a few takes of this, few takes of that, a few takes of this, and we're going through which one should we put on Anthology 4? Maybe Every Little Thing, because it had it was name checked in the movie. Oh no.
Well, it depends if they went to them and said, and Tony, I know what you're going to say, so bear with me. But if they came to them and said, listen, we have a couple of takes of Every Little Thing, or we have a few takes of What's the New Mary Jane? Tony, I know what your choice would be.
No, they have a few takes of What You're Doing where they don't say
well, they don't make a mistake.
Yeah, well, exactly. But see, that actually is something I'd like to hear. I
would too.
Did they do all the mistakes on every take, or was that the only take and they just did that and they left it? So
they left it.
But Every Little Thing is really cool. Now the next one,
it should have been a single. It could have been a single.
No.
Yes, that's a great song for a single.
I don't think so.
I'm not 100% disagreeing with that. That's interesting.
Yeah, well,
would have fit in with some other stuff on the charts. But anyway, go ahead.
Well,
I feel fine, and she's a woman, and Every Little Thing.
I like it. Anyway.
So the next song is I Need You. And every time I hear this now, I think of what you said, Rob, while we were in the car listening. You said, this is what you hear when you go to any club. Let me say, you're at a party.
This is what, if you're at a party and you're strumming your guitar, this is what it sounds like, because you're playing with the A chord and you're strumming and you're going a little bit faster than the Beatles version, and everyone is going along with it. And to me, the first time when we were driving, Mitch, and you played for me, I played that song at a party a couple of times, and you're strumming.
You just have White Album parties, so come on.
Oh, okay, that's true too. But when you strum, that's the way you play it.
Yeah.
The way that that take is, and I was very impressed with it because first of all, it shows where they made the original version really good, but the version that came out was even better. But that original version with the strum is really impressive.
It's very nice. It takes away some of the uniqueness of the track in the Beatles catalog, definitely, and it doesn't show some of the prowess of George using a little bit of effect exactly. But wow, it's wonderful to hear, and it's a great addition to the.
And they laugh at the end too, which is kind of cool. They're not laughing at George.
No,
they're laughing at themselves of what they've done.
Yeah.
You know, I can't help but think though that those of us who are older will always picture that song in Help.
Oh yeah.
You know, so whenever I hear "I Need You," I not only on the album Help, but in the movie Help, I just always picture that scene, and so I need the effect because it, you know, but it again, as you said, Bob, this is a perfect little strum party song. This is the way you would do it. I mean, there is snare drum on this, and someone said it was John on the snare drum here, but I'd have to go back and look at Lewison's book. But it shows that George had a great song no matter what. It's still a great song.
It is. And I was just thinking with every little thing, you know, they added the timpani, and then on "I Need You," they added that pedal noise. Before that, it wasn't there. And part of the sound of the Beatles is adding the timpani, adding that pedal thing.
Absolutely.
And, you know, they're searching for sounds all the time. Not that those two versions that are on Anthology 4 are bad, but they're searching for other noises.
Yeah.
And I just thought of that as you were bringing that up, because it's interesting they're both back to back on this. And Mitch, you were talking about what, you know, was this an Apple thing or whatever? You know, maybe it was, because, you know, it stands out that they're looking for this sound, and then they finally find it.
You know, the one great thing about the Beatles and George Martin is that they, for the most part, 99.9% of the time, except maybe for Good Night, they actually got it right. You know what I mean? They really, when you hear all these outtakes, as great as they are, as fun as the chatter is, you do realize that, you know, the release versions were the best thing that they could have done. Yes. Again, except from, again, Good Night. I love the harmonies, which is on this Anthology 4 too. And I love that they chose that. But anyway, let's get to the next one. I've Just Seen a Face. This was one that they released as a quote single, you know, video single, whatever now.
Promo single.
A promo single. Yeah. I mean, this is revelatory for me because I didn't know all three were on it. I always thought it was like a Paul solo thing.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, you know, you got John saying, hold on, I'll get it. And they talk about chords, and even like when we first heard Yesterday, and he's teaching them, you know, the chords of Yesterday. I was like, why is he teaching them? Paul's doing it by himself. But this one, it sounds like all three are playing, and it's I've never done that. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. Also, you know, John saying Lonnie Donegan's going to regret.
Yes, the Lonnie Donegan line is wonderful. But it's also like this song again, playing this in the car, and you know, when he's not as much of a, you know, obviously a hardcore as, but we were listening to it, and it was this idea, which is true, that this song is at a breakneck pace, really
faster.
And this version's even faster. And it's, you know, it's the kind of thing where if it isn't Paul doing this song has a danger of like going off the cliff.
Yeah.
You know, it can be done like Paul's doing it, like just like it's a runaway train. Like they started, and at the pace they're doing it, he's kind of hanging on for dear life. But he gets it out, and it's still, you know that this is a going to kind of be another, it's a Beatles classic song, but in someone else's hands, this wouldn't have worked.
Maybe not.
But it's in their hands, it works. And it's just fun that, like you said, now we know that it wasn't just a Paul effort.
I always thought it was a Paul effort. I agree with you, Mitch.
I thought so too, yeah.
Yeah, because they never played anything like that after that. You know, that quick acoustic sound, and the way that the fingering of the chords are. You know, it's not. I always thought it was a Paul thing.
Does he mention,
played with himself, so to speak?
Does he mention in lyrics?
I mean. Yeah, I know.
Does he mention in lyrics exactly who his inspiration for was?
I don't remember, quite honestly.
Okay, I don't either. I don't remember him noting like, oh, I was doing so and so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but anyway, but
Well,
yeah, just
you wanna listen to a song that Paul might have heard before he wrote that is Mr. Bassman. Listen
Mr.
to
Bassman
yeah, there's a song,
by Johnny Symbol.
was it Johnny Simba?
Mr. Bassman, you've got that certain
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
something. Bum. But yeah, but that's more that doo-wop, that fast doo-wop-y
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I'm thinking more like the
Country-ish.
Runaway Train country type tune.
Right.
You know, like it's if somebody had a banjo, it would have been the Beatles' first bluegrass track. Let's be honest.
That's true.
You know, it's really what it's down to there.
Well, didn't he do a sort of a version of that, like on Unplugged?
That's true too. Yeah, that's true
I've
too.
just seen a
And
face.
of course, he did a version on Wings Over America, but he did more of a strum.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a fast drum, too. Mitch and Tony, you're talking about a Runaway Train.
Yeah.
That version's also a Runaway Train, but it's just more strumming.
Right.
It's weird also at the end of this song, John says, I've broken a string, but it cuts off like quickly. Like they didn't let him finish the comment. Did the tape cut off, or did someone make a mistake and like just because it seems very abrupt at the end. Like I don't know if they just there was literally they stopped tape, because I think they could have let it go for another second or two and we would have just heard, even if he breathes. It's a weird cut.
Someone might have, obviously someone in the booth might have seen him break the string and then
just
stop tape. Yeah.
It's just so weird on this, but that's all right. So the next song, In My Life, Take One. And again,
gorgeous.
They didn't go into the studio and go, I have a song called In My Life, Ringo. And he said, I've got this pattern. I'm sure they rehearsed it, but it is gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
No, it's interesting to hear the empty space where the George Martin solo would have been, because there's no George Martin piano.
It's also interesting to hear the slightly different nuances and different lines.
There's also like a chord change, a different chord change at some point too.
But John's nuances in his lyric between this and and the way he delivers his lyrics between this and even in If I Fell, but his voice is so sweet on both of these. But go ahead. I'm sorry, Mitch. Go ahead.
No. It's just it's really good. I mean, it's one of the songs that I know I'm going to get killed for this, but it's one of the songs that has really become too overplayed and in my opinion has been like, oh, well, this is the Beatles' best song ever in my life. And only the last like 10 years that people have started saying that. I guess as we get older, we reflect and these emotionally hit us more. But
sure.
Again, it's a good song, and it sounds beautiful here.
The backing track sounds pretty well done.
Yeah,
I mean the way like especially at the end where the phasing on the guitar with those notes, it sounds like a lot of it was done. The vocal obviously was redone, and obviously the piano was put in, or with the harpsichord or whatever you want to call it. But to me it sounds pretty close. And I don't know if they went back and redid it, or is it just because it sounded pretty damn close.
Well, it says take one, so that's, right. But I did listen for the unless take one instrumentally was it. I mean, they rehearsed it so well that they said, because I did listen for that little one note ring at the end where it goes, and it's there.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I was talking about.
Yeah, so maybe they take one instrumentally,
or maybe they edited it off. Maybe like the end of.
Don't tell me this is now fake.
I'm fake.
I don't want to hear it. Anyway.
No
so
way.
The next one is Nowhere Man. Now, this is very interesting, and I don't know what happened here, except they start off singing it totally different. He's a instead of he's a. So it's really cool, and the harmony is so tight. Tight.
Yes.
It actually sounds like 4-part harmony instead of 3.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a different drum beat. And then right after they sing He's a Real Nowhere Man, it's all instrumental. So I would love to know, it's the first version, take 2. I would love to know if they had them still singing or if they just stopped it there and then gave it.
Or this could be a Beatles Anthology splice.
Yeah.
That could have been done to lead you in so that it doesn't start cold in a spot that leaves the listener or the casual fan a little bit confused.
and it's not just an instrumental because there are
right. If you do that, and you also show that, because what you're also doing there is you're reflecting the concept that that rhythmic version, that rhythmic structure, went as far as them trying to do vocals to it. So in other words, you've shown that idea, but now rather than give you, because maybe there wasn't even a remotely tight one, so they just give it a little bit, then we'll give you the instrumental. So, and again, look,
it's fair.
It's fair enough. They're entitled to do stuff like that.
But it's very Byrds. Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
It's actually more Byrds than the final version.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can see where the influence obviously was, but it's more Byrdsy. Again, this version then leads to the better version, I guess you want to call it. It's amazing that they just knew how. Most people would say, "Oh, that's okay.
That was good.
That was good." Yeah. No, the Beatles said, "No, that was good, but we can do this better." And
the other thing is, if you listen, the chorus comes in right after the intro.
Right.
The instrumental part. So it's kind of weird. I was like, "Oh, all right," because even if I tried to sing the song with it, you can't unless you do, "No Man," right after they start at the beginning. So it's a little different. So they may have decided, no, let's not do that. Let's extend it to who knows? Or maybe, as Tony said, maybe it's just an edit, just to give you a feel for what the first version, take two, was.
Think about that song. In normal songwriting, that guitar solo would have been later in the song, and in the song, it's more towards the beginning. So they did that on purpose, obviously, because it just sounded different that the guitar solo was so close to the beginning of the song compared to where they normally would put it.
I just love the harmony, man. Woof.
Yeah.
Wow. So now we get into a little weird stuff. Mind-blowing stuff, because we get into like a 6-minute version of "Baby You're a Rich Man," which I've never loved the song. I mean, when I say time out, I'm not saying I didn't like the song. I love the song. It's a great song, but it's not one I'm flipping over All You Need Is Love all the time for.
It's a top 10 for me. It always
and that's your prerogative. But this is so cool, and to hear them try it and then break down and say, "Let's just do the drums and piano," and John says, "Yeah, because the guitar is a curse, man."
Cursed, yeah, cursed.
That's cool. And the part that I really love, and I have to give online, is a website called Super Deluxe Edition. I have to give them credit for this. When John is talking and he says, "We want Coke smell," and then Paul says, "If you got cannabis resin," he says, "Yeah, if you got cannabis, we want that in here too." And Paul says, "We've got that taped for the High Court tomorrow." You know what that's about? Which, again, they're speculating, but Mick Jagger is in the studio with them. A day earlier,
oh my goodness,
pleaded not guilty to drug possession.
Oh my goodness.
So that's right. All could have been referring, and again, all credit to Super Deluxe Edition, because I never would have known this.
No.
But it's so cool to now get, like, even if he's wrong, it's cool to get some sort of context that's why he said for the High Court tomorrow, because Keith and Mick were in the day before, and Mick's in the studio now. So that's really cool.
That's hysterical.
Someone last night on my show called in and asked me that, and I said, was that the episode where was that the session Mick was at? And he sent me something later on. So, the fact that Super Deluxe Edition had it before him, but he didn't know about Super Deluxe, he wouldn't have asked me. But I think the cannabis part from Paul is, coming from Paul is pretty funny.
It is.
And you know what I like about that song? Because now I like it a lot more. That weird noise that was like a mellotron.
Whatever the Indian instrument is. I forgot.
Whatever that is.
Isn't that the guitarolina or something?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I never liked that. I always thought it was kind of annoying.
I love it.
Love
but
it.
now that I don't hear it in
Sounds like
the
Felix
song,
Unger holding his nose.
yeah, that's what it sounds like, and it sounds like I should be eating curry or something. But
Well,
I like it without it a lot. I was like, wow, that's the song changes a effect on me now.
This has always been one of my favorite Beatles songs. So to hear, this was a real major treat for me in terms of like selections on here. But what I love the most is the extended ending.
yes.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right.
Screwing with the vocals and doing different patterns. Now, Mitch, I've got to throw this out there. I know we're missing some vocal overdubs there, but do you think that this is one of those things too, where, yeah, you can hear what Paul and John are doing all the way to the fade out.
I know where you're going.
And it takes away from that horrible myth that John had said something not so nice at the end of Baby You're a Rich Man. So now it's like, here we go, full fade. You're hearing stuff that, and yeah, there were other voices.
They're rolling their R's.
They're rolling their R's. Well, Paul sounds like he's, like we were listening in the car. It's like, Paul sounds like he's like, I'm sure it's not, but like he's pissed,
Oh, I don't know about that.
But it's just
like
funny. He's they're digging their heels into these vocal, and it's pretty hysterical.
The fun part about this also is that, first of all, when they said, "Oh, that was loud in here," and then John sings, "How does it feel to be one of the loudest people?" And then he says, "Come on, guys, let's hear some rhythm and soul from London." They're having so much fun. This is, to me, like one of the last times. We're talking about, I think, February of '67. So, and it's a week before they start recording "You Know My Name." So They're still having fun in the studio. Like after this, then it became like, I'm in the studio, you're in the studio, you're in the other studio. I don't know how much they were all having as much fun, but like, this is so cool to hear. And they just, it does make it a better song for me now. Just like you said, Robert, you like it much better just because of this. And that's the fun of Anthology 4. You get stuff like this and you go, oh, that's so cool. And now I appreciate the song a lot better. That's why I said it wasn't one of my favorites in the beginning, because I appreciate it so much more now.
And also, as Apple and Universal go backwards with the, putting out of the box sets, will there be a box set of Magical Mystery Tour
and Yellow Sub?
And Yellow Submarine, I'm not expecting.
Well, you'd have to put Only Northern Song,
Right, but they sort of already mixed that. It wasn't Giles, but it was remixed.
Well, I want to hear the 6-minute version,
Well, yeah, I want that too.
The extra verse that was only in the movie.
But the thing about the whole Anthology 4 is, how many of these songs are going to get picked off for the Rubber Soul, The Help, A Hard Day's Night? When they go backwards.
That's what I was saying in the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah. So but for Magical Mystery Tour, the Beatles consider that an EP. They put it out as a LP because it was too much of an import in Great Britain. But it's nice to see something that just maybe doesn't appear anywhere else.
It may not.
Yeah.
But this is over 6 minutes too, and that's what I love. I love that they gave us the whole thing. They could have easily cut some of this down, but they didn't, and that's the fun too. You got to give them credit where credit's due.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So the next is All You Need Is Love, the rehearsal for the BBC broadcast. We've had video of this for a while.
Yeah.
I still love when John says Princess Margaret's wearing a low feather nightgown, and you hear him saying stuff at the very end of the thing too. But this, I don't mind even that you hear the announcer's voice. The broadcaster on the news, the voice, or whoever's doing it. I don't mind that because it's technically it's still a Beatle outtake. But it's
I love that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I love that guy. I don't know who the announcer is, but I love him because, he's trying to say that the Beatles have changed. They hang out with the orchestra guys now.
Yeah, right. But they like them better. They don't. They get along better with the older orchestra guys.
It's like, really, really. I thought I saw Mick Jagger in the crowd singing along.
Yeah. How many young people are in the? And meanwhile, the old guys are in the back. And so you're right, but it is fun.
The drinking crowd versus the joint smoking crowd. I don't know. We're starting to get, No, but the thing about that too is that we've sort of finally got that version as
Right.
as a soundtrack release.
Right.
I mean, we've that's going to obviously be updated and upgraded dramatically in the documentary.
I hope so.
In Anthology.
Don't forget they colorized it when they did it.
I know.
Yeah, I hated that.
And who knows what the deal is going to be now with that, but that it's going to look wonderful. Yeah, no matter
Either
what.
way, it's going to look better.
So yeah, it's going to look better. So upgrading the sound on that, we now have that soundtrack as part of the.
Well, if you upgrade the sound, colorization is the bad thing. If you're gonna, it's very limited. Very limited.
Yeah.
So the next one is we don't really have to talk too much about it. The Fool on the Hill, Take 5. It's an instrumental. There's not much to say on here. It's a beautiful instrumental, and I love it because it gives me a chance to sing and look stupid to everybody when I'm driving. But it's an instrumental. Does anybody have any really things to say about it?
But this is the third version of this song.
Correct.
Come on.
I know.
And it's an instrumental. So you're right, Rob. We can bitch, moan, and complain, which we all do. And they could have maybe slotted something in.
There's not another outtake.
It is the third version, but obviously someone, Paul, likes this song.
Yes, yes, he does.
So you know what? He must, and he and Ringo are the surviving Beatles, and they have the bigger say, I would assume. So guess what? It's the third version, and it's on here. Anyway, anybody else have anything to say about this one?
No, not really.
So the next one is I Am the Walrus. Now, it's an instrumental, but I don't care. It's 5 minutes of, spookiness. This thing is downright spooky when you listen to it without any of the vocals. I mean, you realize, first of all, the vocal bleed is coming through, so you can follow, which is kind of cool. The French horn flourishes at the end are really cool.
They're jarring, though. Actually,
they are really jarring, but because when you hear them by themselves,
yes, they're really bizarre.
But this just, I think they put this one on here really to show the brilliance of George Martin.
Absolutely. I have to be honest, the only thing that's unusual about this is that, again, listening to it today for the second, third time, whatever it is, this is not something that for me is going to be like a must-have repeated listen.
Right.
If I were to have taken either the streaming or taken this and made like a best of out of it, it's cool that it's there. It is. It's a serious testimony to George Martin, but it's not something that you're going to want repeated listening necessarily.
It reminds me of Eleanor Rigby on Anthology 2, where you get to see. This is like a thank you to George Martin, because look what he did on Eleanor Rigby, look what he did on this.
Right.
It would have been nice maybe for just the strings of Strawberry Fields or something, or
but they have that on take 2 a lot.
Right. So I understand
on the
why
second album. So on Anthology 2, the one thing I will say is that my daughter is 22, and for the last 3 or 4 years, she fell in love with George Martin's production on Eleanor Rigby. Well, I'm glad you said it, Rob. She has Eleanor Rigby's lyrics on her wall, and she wants to get a tattoo of the face in a jar by the door. She actually wants to find someone to do it because she loves that song because of the orchestration, the instrumental part.
Right.
She loves the whole thing. She did a dissertation of the lyrics, but George Martin's backing, she loves that. And so for her, something like this, as much as Tony may not love to repeated listen, or we may not love it, someone who is really into music will always repeat this one along with the Eleanor Rigby because of the testimony to George Martin and how brilliant his orchestrations are.
Right.
Yeah.
So Andrew Lubman, shout out to Andrew Lubman. Andrew's probably going to want to listen to this repeatedly.
Because he's a true instrumentalist, so to speak. And I mean that in the best possible freaking way, because he's amazing. But yes, you're right. So the musos are going to probably want to hear this more than, I Need You. I don't know. I'm just saying it's nice to be included as a testimony to George Martin, because something should have been, because he, in my opinion, was truly the fifth Beatle. So,
well, that's one of the few songs that could have been Lennon, McCartney, Martin. You know,
could have been.
Interesting.
Could have been. So the last one before we get to the two remixes is "Hey Bulldog." This is interesting too because, again, Rob, this could be on this thing and not on any other box because
right.
Mystery Tour. John says I didn't like the rhythm, so they start again. They sounds a little faster. What the hell is up with Ringo's drum fill flourishes in this? Does he do that on the finished? I have to listen again. I don't think he does.
There's some serious drumming in the finish.
No, but there's some triplets going on here.
Yeah.
Like in the middle, I'm like, I'm a drummer, and either they buried them in the mix or they.
I don't think they're in the. I don't think the triplets. I don't think some of the things you're referring to. I don't think they're in the final.
I have to listen again because oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You really, I mean, you talk about, oh, Ringo's okay. No, Ringo's more than okay. Listen to this. And even if they didn't use it in the finish, just the fact that he thought to do that was amazing. And I do love John's comment about the end of, like your blues or your comedy. Really, so, but your blues was when?
68.
Hey Bulldog was when?
February 68. Your blues was what, August 68?
Oh, yeah.
So
he had that in mind.
That's fine.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And the funny thing about Hey Bulldog, there's been so many mixes of it. And the version originally on Yellow Submarine was really muddy, and then they cleaned it up for the song track. Then the rock band version was different, and then this song keeps popping up. It's like
it's become the Beatles' cool song.
It has been because if you remember, Sirius XM reportedly said, "Well, it got loose in the computer and it played on all the channels." Of course, they knew about it, but they were trying
to play a lot.
It gets played a lot. It's one of those songs, man. Yeah, it's a great riff.
It is a good song. I mean, again, the Beatles thought nothing of it at the time. They
again,
the movie.
Probably one of my top 10 in there too. But anyway,
yeah, it's really good. And I'm glad we actually, we have
like
the video.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
Cool. So let's, oh my goodness, let's get to the two. We're not going to talk about Now and Then. They didn't do anything with Now and Then. I think they might have balanced the instruments a little bit, but nothing major at all. So we're not going to talk about Now and Then. Let's talk about Free as a Bird of Real Love. Free as a Bird first.
Okay.
I've never loved this song from the very beginning. I've never been shy about saying that. As a song, I just didn't think it was anything good. It was very exciting to hear. I was happy Real Love was the next night, Rob, because that actually, gave me back my faith in the Beatles.
Really? I like
Free as a Bird was, the video was amazing. I thought the song itself, the 2025 mix sounds gorgeous. I mean, they made it work. They balanced John and George and Paul together. So now it doesn't sound like when Paul and George come in that they're separate from what John did.
Yes.
So it puts them on the same plane, so to speak. John sounds very clear. The only quibble I have with this, they changed that lyric of George to, instead of the love we once knew, to the life we once knew, or the love we once knew, whatever it was, I forgot. But the problem is that it comes in too quick with George. Like they could have easily taken the machinery and lengthened it. You could do that on Audacity. Lengthen it a little so it sounds smoother coming in. The life that the love that we once knew, it's like just comes in too quick. And I don't know why they chose to do that, other than the only thing I can think of, and it's pure speculation, is that they wanted George in this version to sing something different than Paul sang. Because Paul sings love, he sings life, or vice versa. I'm sorry, I'm not remembering. Yeah, the love that we once, the life that we once knew, whatever it is. But they might have wanted them to sing different things because they were recorded. So you might as well do it as long as you're, flying in different stuff, especially for like Real Love, which we'll get to in a minute. But I still don't love the song. but the video looks amazing, the new remaster, and the song sounds better than it ever has, even if me personally don't like the song.
I was emotionally moved by the song when it happened. It was mind-boggling. When we first heard it, it was mind-boggling. But over the years, it's kind of, we've even debated on the show, well, is it really part of the official catalog? It's, and to be honest, I didn't even know the song well enough to know those discrepancies. Now, even though it's, if you think about it structurally as a pop song, it is still missing some elements in a way.
It doesn't sound like a full structured
song. Verse, chorus, middle eight. Like there's not.
There is no middle eight. You're right.
There is no middle eight. So, and technically, obviously, it's not always a middle eight. I understand that.
Yeah, a lot of Beatles songs don't have a middle eight.
Right, but in this case, this kind of a mature sounding Beatles, you would think would have a middle eight in it probably. But to me, this version of Free as a Bird is now part of the catalog. I can now listen to this in line with any other Beatles recording and be like, oh yeah, here's another Beatles song. This is Free as a Bird. Okay.
Interesting.
When I'm in the mood for it, I would put it in a playlist with something else, or but I never really played this on our radio show much. But now this version is kind of like, okay, yeah, this is a complete piece. This now sounds like something that isn't still a little bit of a Frankenstein. I know we've always done the, John's voice always had effects, and I get it. It's all true. But now that you hear it clear as a bell like this,
yeah,
anyway.
Well, I always love the song, and I love the video too.
Love the video.
This is sort of the 2025 mix is sort of the one DVD plus mix, because Mitch, what you said, they did change George's vocal, and there's a couple other little things that they changed in the DVD mix when the promo films came out. So it's sort of in the middle of that. And so that's part of it. I don't mind this mix, and this also makes me happy that the 1995 mixes were included on 1, 2, and 3 when they redid it, that they just didn't take it off that.
Right.
And they put this at the end, which makes sense. So to me, I'm happy about that. I've always enjoyed the song. So especially it's not the middle eight, but the Whatever Happened to, The Life That We Once Knew, that's not a middle eight, but that's a middle. And I always thought that meant a lot to Paul, talking about his life in many ways.
Well, you needed that, Rob, because there was no song other than, Paul and George said they needed to go in and do new lyrics.
Right. And then that makes
if you didn't have that, then it's not a song at all.
No. It helped a lot that they did that, and they were smart enough.
And also, don't forget, you needed to have, if you just had it, you don't want them being the backup for John Lennon. It could have been been a John Lennon solo song.
Right, and that makes
you needed the Beatles
sense
to be on it.
No, and that's why it worked out so well.
Yeah.
The 2025 mix is okay. It sounds better. The clarity is there.
Fresh.
Yeah,
it does.
It's too bad that Ringo didn't go back and change the drums to get rid of some of that Jeff Lynne drum sound.
I think they did de-Lynn a lot.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think they did. It doesn't sound as much ELO anymore.
Yeah, that helps too. So I'm happy with that. It's there. I like it's at the end of the record, not at the beginning, because then it sort of gives a better flow for the record, I think. Though, if on the side, if you have the vinyl, the last side is only like 12 minutes. So
it's all 3 of the new songs.
Yeah. So
the Beatles songs.
Right. So to me, and that makes sense. So it's the same thing. So I'm glad they did it that way. That part didn't bother me.
So I'm gearing myself up here because.
Now we're gonna talk about Real Love, right?
Yeah, because this one I wanted to love so much because I love Real Love.
It's a great
I've
song.
said it before. I've had, when I was in London in '96, going to Apple about my book, Beatletunes. By the way, for those of you who don't know me as an author of Beatletunes, um, Real Love was playing everywhere in London at that point. It was February of '96. Everywhere it was playing. Okay, even though like the BBC didn't play it a lot, but it was blaring out of everywhere. So I have an affinity for that song for many reasons. I love the 2015 mix. I thought it was the best mix out of the two that they had at that point.
Yep.
Because it the strum at the beginning is beautiful. I mean, and now the 25 mix, and I think they've overcompensated on John's voice. They've tried to de-chipmunk it because we always had the joke, thought I'd been in love before with Simon, Alvin, and Theodore. But so they did try to de-chipmunk it, and they went overboard, in my opinion. John, first of all, there's a guy called Miguel Carrera. I posted this on our Fab for Free for All Facebook page, a thorough analysis of what makes it different. He went through and did incredible exhaustive research on all three mixes and the videos, by the way. And I put it on our page if you want to see it. But essentially, the Beatles have now used two different John vocals on this song.
Yes.
And they've flown in different parts. A lot of it, to me, sounds very AI, even though it's not. It just sounds weird. John's too clear in the mix. A couple people online said this song was made around a demo, and it worked because they flew in John and the Beatles did a full song, and now you have John's demo being so loud and it just doesn't work. I agree with that. There's a lot of different intonations of words, which maybe because we're so ingrained on 30 years of hearing Real Love that we don't want it to sound different other than sounding fresh and new and de-chipmunked, which I love the fact that they de-chipmunked it. But I'm not loving. I think they made some bold choices here with the vocals. They took out George's little licks and had descending guitars, and then that bothers me too because I mean they must have approved it, but I can't see how Danny and Olivia were happy with that unless George said to them privately, "I never liked those," and he wanted them out. I don't know. We'll never know, but there are too many bold moves on this one, and it sounds more like they didn't finish the restoration and just put it out.
Here's my thoughts on this one.
Sure.
Again, it's the idea that I always fancied the version on the Imagine soundtrack more than the Beatles version. Okay, that's just me.
Okay.
But for those who don't know, it's a very acoustic, just John himself with a guitar. It's beautiful.
Right.
Yep.
But I think that again, we have both of them. Because they still exist on Anthology. It still exists on Anthology 2.
Correct.
Which has been re-released, as you said, with it on it. I'm back in the camp that...
But you have to buy the box to get that.
You have to buy the box to get it. Or you have your old copy of Anthology 2. Or you can listen to that streaming because that's going to keep listening too. But I'm back in the idea that I wasn't married to the Beatles version so much that I see and hear and feel these differences. I do, obviously, I feel John's vocal differences. I know that right away.
You didn't see George's licks not there?
Yeah, I hear George's licks not there. I got to be honest, I don't miss them. Reason why I don't miss them is because it was always a little Jeff Lynne-ish. It was always a little, not to be funny, but George, it's like in the thing with Hey Jude, you're echoing my, I mean, it's really just, it's George echoing like the little, he's
really
echo. Well,
but George has done that on a lot of songs, not just Beatles songs. He likes that.
Yeah, but
he's doing it here though.
But this didn't, I never felt, I always felt like Real Love was forcing the idea of, hey, look, all the Beatles are back together and they're all on this song. Instead of just, here's a song. Like it always came off as a little bit too, I won't say gimmicky, but like the Beatles are back together and boy, you're gonna know it. Like here's because you got George and you got like now it's like, oh look, it's a Beatles song and each of them is doing an element to it and you know, I like that. You know.
I think part of it is that, you know, George's slide is very dominant in that song.
Yes.
And I think maybe they wanted to take it out. I don't know why they took it out the way they took it out, but there is some reasoning that was taken out. And of course, Paul's never really liked that thing, like what you mentioned, Tony, like with Hey Jude, where George wanted to put those little fills in, and he said no. And I wonder where this started, that they took this out. What gets me about Real Love, because again, on the 1+ DVD mix, that was also a different mix, which I like a lot. But on this, it seems like they took it apart. They slowed it down because everyone, the chipmunk thing.
Right.
I never minded that the sped up thing, because it goes from a D to an E flat or an E. I forget which one it is. I was never bothered by that. Yes, it's a little maybe too high, but it's there. But it never bothered me. It seems like they just
Rob, that's also Paul singing in unison with John in his voice, so it made it even sound higher.
Right. And my thing is, it's like they did half of it and said, oh, the deadline's here. Well, we didn't finish it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound finished.
And I'm not sure of why it was done that way. If you had heard this version instead of the original version, I might not like it as much. I would say, well, it doesn't sound finished. But the same thing, I know what you're saying, Tony, because this is much more of a Beatles song than Free as a Bird.
Yeah, and Real Love to me, again, there's that little element of overproduction. And Mitch, to your point, you bring up a great point, but maybe again, it's the idea that maybe Paul did go to Olivia or Danny and say, hey, Danny, when we did this, I never really loved, that guitar piece from your dad. Could we scale that back? And maybe Danny said, hey, you know what? The other version's still going to be available.
Maybe.
Maybe. It does.
You still have George's descending guitar. He's still there.
Yeah.
And you still have the guitar solo and other little George things. So it's not like, also the harmonies are a little lower. The only other thing that really bothered me is that they wiped out 15 seconds of the ending. So you don't get George's little flourishes with
that's true.
At the end, because now the weird thing is that if you watch the remastered video, which sounds amazing because they put it with it, they left the 15 seconds of the video and gave you the new mix with 15 seconds of the old mix at the end, because they had to keep the video going because it's 15 seconds longer or 20 seconds longer. So if you watch it, you're going to hear it and it's going to sound like the 25 mix, but then you'll put it on whatever you listen or stream or whatever, and it's shortened. So it that bothers me, because I always loved singing Real Love, letting it fade out slowly and hearing George's little, little stuff he was just working on, and it sounded great. Now you don't get it. It sounds too abruptly over.
I always loved Real Love's ending, where you could put that on a 5-minute loop and I'd be happy. I mean, I just love the way that just goes on, and that George's playing is really heartfelt, I thought, at the end.
Yes, that's true.
And I'm just like, when I heard it, I'm like, hold it, where's the end of the song?
Well, so anyway.
It's like cutting Hey Jude down to 4 minutes,
Well, like they did on the Beatles' 20 Greatest Hits. The
505.
Anyway, on that note, Now and Then was the last song, and we don't have to talk about it, as we said. But we've talked about Anthology 4. We've talked about the collection. It is a collection worth getting. If you don't want to spend $375 or more on the vinyl, don't. You can buy the separate one for like $80, or if it's on sale, whatever. To me,
well, that's the vinyl. The CDs would be cheaper.
The CDs are a little less, obviously, but and I'm sure you guys have an opinion. I think it's totally worth it. I think they did a fantastic job on this for what it is.
Yeah.
can't wait to see because it hasn't been premiered yet as of this taping, the Anthology docu-series. I can't wait to see that. And we hope that you all go and at least stream, even the naysayers, go stream at least this to hear, what is really just really fun Beatles. So.
And if you're not familiar with the Super Deluxe editions, you're going to have even more fun than the fun that we're talking about here this evening, because we're talking about the stuff that's exclusive to Anthology 4 as of this taping.
Right.
But if you're not familiar with the Super Deluxe editions, then you've got a whole. It's a gas, baby.
And there's 36. I think there's 36 songs on Anthology 4 in total.
Yep.
So there's a lot to listen to. Go have fun with it, and that's all that matters. The Beatles are always about fun and peace and love, and I'm not sounding Ringo here, but so just go and enjoy this collection. And if you don't want to enjoy it, okay, don't enjoy it. But thank goodness we're getting the opportunity nowadays to either like it or not like it, and listen or not. So
there was a thing when I was doing some research. There was a point where they were going to take the first 3 anthologies and put it into a box set. So this idea has been around for a while, and somewhere along the line they said, well, let's add a 4th one, even though they said, well, we don't have any more stuff. Of course not. Of course they do. And it only reminds me of also, we all are collectors of the Dutch imports. Yeah. There's been a lot of anthology 2-disc sets along the way. Originally Anthology 4, Anthology More, Anthology Plus. There's been a whole bunch of bootlegs of Anthology where they follow the thing. They have some early stuff from 60 or 61, and then it goes to the end of the Beatles. So this is just another one of those.
Well, maybe it's another Alpha Omega where they're forcing the hand of the Beatles to put out something that.
There you go.
And also, don't forget, Rob, this talks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. But you know what? And we've seen this on our.
And by the way, just so none of you kids are scared, what Mitch just did was made the money sign.
Money sign.
Thing on audio. Sorry. So by just saying, oh, by the way, this talks, you might be scaring the children, Mitch.
Yeah.
We might just be audio only here.
But this has appeared on our Facebook page and other pages. This is not a money grab.
It's not.
No. This is a regular release.
Every release is a money grab. They want to make money, Rob. It's not like they're releasing it for the goodness of their heart.
Right. It's not a charity.
Any artist is a money grab.
And there's nothing wrong with making some money. That's what that's why you release things.
It's a brand. Anyway,
because the Beatles need it. They do really need the money.
Yes, we're going to start a GoFundMe page for the Beatles.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that note, I have been your moderator, Mitch Axelrod, speaking about the Anthology collection, both video and audio. Anthology 4, as the blurry Rob is showing you there. I am Mitch Axelrod, and joining me, as they always do, and I'm really glad, are Tony Chiguardo.
Take care, folks.
And Rob Leonard.
Thank you, everyone.
And we will see you soon.
Fab 4 Free For All was edited and produced by Tony Chiguardo at Word of Mouth Studios in Westbury, New York.
The opening and closing theme is My Dolly by the band The Badge, featuring longtime listener Jeff Slate, available on its debut album Digital Retro and recent Best Of compilation, as well as from the Fab 4 Free For All website.
Thanks for listening to Fab 4 Free For All.